We're live.
Awesome.
We're live.
So, hello everybody.
Awesome.
This is the
So, hello
Neogenian
everybody.
Oculus. If you're
This is
familiar
the
with
Neogenian
our
Oculus.
channel, we talk about the Neogenian system, our understanding of reality, and I'm joined with my co-host Susan Mitchell and our guest for today, Jan Daemon, who has their own channel. So, I want to, before we get started, thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you to our moderators in the chat for making sure that the chat goes smoothly. And thank you to anybody who sends super chats. We appreciate all of you. So today we thought we would talk about something that's been really popular, not only recently, but for the last 20 or so years, which is the concept of the Matrix. So The Matrix was a super popular film series. They recently came out with another one in, I think it was 2021. But the reason we'd like to talk about the Matrix today is because we want to draw parallels with simulation theory and our understanding of reality, which is the Neogenian understanding. So I just thought it would be good to come on here and talk to you guys about that. And thank you, Sinfully Cerebral, for gifting one Neogenian Oculus membership. We appreciate that.
Thank you, and
So,
congratulations to Kate for getting it.
yes, congratulations. So we're probably not going to be in the chat too much because we have a lot to get through, but we'll try and check in on you every once in a while. So I thought it would be good to start out with describing what is the Matrix. So a lot of you have probably seen the films. For those of you who have not seen the films, I'll kind of go through a little bit of a summary, but we're not going to discuss a lot of the lore of the Matrix. We're going to mostly talk about the concepts and draw on parallels between those three things, which is the Matrix, simulation theory, and the Neogenian understanding of reality. So, in the films, The Matrix, which is a 1999 film, it kind of depicts a dystopian futuristic world where the technological advancements caused the fall of humanity. So, pairing that with the creation of artificial intelligence, it kind of led to a sort of end of the world scenario where a race of powerful and self aware machines have kind of imprisoned humans in this virtual reality system, which is the Matrix. So they do that in order to farm the humans as a power source. They're sort of like batteries. And so the Matrix itself is a realistic digital construct of society in 1999. And so the minds that are still plugged into that system are unaware that they're plugged in, but they are experiencing the Matrix as if it's real life. And so occasionally some of the prisoners that are inside of the Matrix manage to break free, or they're freed by other people. And so once they are freed, they are awakened, they're exited from the construct, and they are in the real world, and they're considered a threat by the system. And so ultimately, their goal is to free as many minds as possible that are still asleep in the construct. And so there's a lot of really cool concepts with the Matrix that we want to talk about today. And I really think it'll be cool to kind of contrast that with our understanding, because everybody here on this channel and most of you in the comments are probably Neogenian, and we have our own understanding of reality. So, how are you guys today, Susan and Jan?
Doing well. Yeah, this is a really good subject. I'm very excited about it because I think there's a tremendous amount of this that people connect to, especially in age. And in some ways it's really agreeable. And then some people take it to a place that's kind of like warping the meaning and interpreting it for themselves in a way that doesn't really help out the collective or humanity as a whole.
Yeah. And I think when we draw on the parallels and the contrast between the Matrix concept of reality and our concept of reality, the Neogenian understanding, we can really highlight those different things that would help everybody that would benefit everybody in perfecting our own system, our own reality. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was something that's very different with the Matrix is I know I talked about the minds that are plugged in to the construct. So, thus, their bodies, their physicality is outside of the construct. Their bodies are being used essentially as batteries to power the machines and power the construct of the matrix. And so the reason that they're plugged in is to interact, have their minds interact, to engage their minds so that it would be more realistic and they don't resist the construct, the illusion. And that way the battery, or not the batteries, the machines can continue to farm and harvest that biological power source from the humans. And so that's very different from if you look at simulation theory. So I am not an expert in simulation theory by any means, but my understanding of it is that all of reality is a simulation, that it's like a computer coded simulation that we all exist in. Our bodies would be simulated. And you see a lot of people talking about this, like Elon Musk. Susan, who was the guy that you said came up with simulation theory?
I believe his name is Nick, and it's Bostrom.
Bosch.
Yeah, I think he's is he a physicist? I'm not sure, but um, the point is there is a reality, as far as I know, like in the Matrix. It's just that it's so technologically advanced that they've created this simulation. And I think it's so that they can simulate their ancestors. And that's who most of the people, I believe, in this simulated reality would be. And I don't really understand why they would do it. Like
Well,
I don't get it.
in
But
most of the interviews and stuff where I've seen people talking about simulation theory, they seem to suggest that the reason they believe it's a simulated reality is because our exponential growth of technology, virtual reality, and our new
yeah,
understanding of AI, the growing
yeah,
complexity of AI, suggests that that would come about.
yeah.
And so it's really odd because you kind of have to try and get to the origin of the simulated reality. And I know you said, Susan, that whoever created the simulation, that puts you to a whole new world, and you kind of have that
Well,
cyclical argument of, well, who created that?
yeah, it's the same as in the Matrix. Neither one of those two theories actually explains how the so-called the real reality came to be. All they do is push the issue somewhere else. So in both of those systems, matrix and simulation, if you compare them and then you put Neogenian over here, you can see there's similarities with all three of them, and they all sound really interesting. And but for somebody who can't really discern what makes sense, they could all be very appealing, but they wouldn't be able to analyze it critically to see
Right.
what has a rational foundation. But with the
I think
first
there's
two,
also Oh, I was just going to say, I think there's also a underlying theme of complacency. So if you look at the Matrix, the reason that the construct is so perfected and people are so um, what am I trying to say? They don't resist the
docile.
illusion because they're docile. They've been made to think that this is the real world. They're enjoying being there. They can eat all the steak that they want and have their life play out as if it was, what they really wanted. And
Yeah.
so there's a couple other examples of simulated reality as well. And I wanted to bring up the Truman Show with Jim Carrey, which is that movie where it's kind of like his life is a TV show, and these people have been setting up his life, and they change it. So whenever he kind of starts getting to the answer, they change things so that he can't realize that his life is a construct.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is in the Truman Show, he's the only person that is in the construct. Now, there's
Yeah.
actors that are, around him, keeping him in that
Yeah. Well, he's the
complacency. But
focus of the TV show.
yeah, he's the focus,
You
and the
know.
actors around him know what's going on, but he has no clue.
Yeah.
And then another example, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, that Susan brought up, is Plato's cave. So in Plato's cave, looking at these shadows on the wall, you believe that these shadows, these representations, are the true reality. And it's not until you exit the cave and see the light and see the true reality that you understand that you were in a construct or an illusion. And we're going to draw on that a little bit later because we are going to talk about the theme of waking up, and that'll
Yeah.
come in just a little bit. But
I think one of
another
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the interesting things you mentioned about how they made the Matrix so that it was appealing and you could have whatever you want. But I think the storyline is actually they created a perfect world where everybody had whatever they wanted, but that wasn't believable enough, and
Yeah.
the minds um, rejected it. Because one of the questions I have about the Matrix is why bother to create the Matrix? You're just using bodies as batteries. Why not leave them in the coma state? And I think that the answer they had, obviously they had to come up with a reason in order to make the movie, but I think that the reason that they came up with it is, well, if you left them in the coma state, the mind isn't being engaged enough, and it'll
Mhm.
reject, and then the body will die, and then we won't have our battery, which
And
isn't.
also, in the movie, they mention that the one that Neo is in, that Matrix is the sixth Matrix. That there was five predecessors to that illusion and that construct,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they had to keep destroying it and trying again.
Yeah, they had to keep learning what would work, what would keep because they're just trying to keep the bodies healthy so that they can use them. That's
Yeah,
it. That's the reason, the whole reason for the Matrix is to find some sort of mental arena that will keep the minds of the bodies engaged
yeah,
and I guess healthy enough to so that they could harvest the energy off it. So never mind all the problems with you know, it being not a very efficient way of doing it. It's still an interesting proposal, and people are fascinated enough with it that it's still very popular idea. But again, you have the same problem you have with simulation theory, which is, well, what's behind the real reality? Yes, we find out that all of the people who are not connected to the matrix live in Zion. And oh, that's another interesting thing. All of the sort of biblical connection.
yeah.
There's a theme there with religion.
But since we're talking about physicality, I want to kind of riff off what you're saying because, in contrast with the Matrix, our Neogenian understanding of reality is that there is no physicality outside of the construct that we're in. So, in the Neogenian system, what we understand of as the physical reality, we call that the holos, and there's no physicality outside of that. So, we can't exit this construct of the holos and be in
Oh
our
yeah, and
bodies.
go to another reality where it's physical and our
Right.
real bodies are there. That's the difference. So in the analogy, it would be kind of like the source, which is where which is what is actually what produces the holos. It would be the real world in the matrix, the real physical world that then
Mhm.
produces the matrix and which people exist in. So, and the matrix would be on a par with the holos, but that the issues with that we brought up with the matrix system is, well, then how do you explain that reality, the base one? They
Yeah.
don't do that, and they don't do it in simulation theory either. But in the Neogenian system, it's the source is explained of what we are as we're always saying individual minds, zetas, mathematical beings of frequency, and together we are the creators of the holos, this
Yeah.
shared
And
world.
so, similar to the Matrix, there is a mathematical layer behind reality. But for the Matrix, it's sort of like a binary code. It's sort of like a video game code, which is very different. So, in the Neogenian understanding, we know that there is a reality of waves behind the holos. And remember, the holos is the realm of perceived physicality. That's the realm of content, of phenomenological experience. That's where we experience everything in our day-to-day lives. And so there's a little bit of a difference there because the mathematical nature of reality is not the binary code like it would be in the matrix, because that would also have to suggest a designer, an architect, or somebody to
Right.
write the code. But whereas in the Neogenian understanding, uh, reality was created unconsciously as us together out of mind. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. I think now would probably be a good point to check the chat because I think there's been some super chats and people
Yeah.
saying hello. So just before we move on, I saw Morg did a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Morg.
Thanks, Morg.
Also, Renaissance Fairy gifted one Neogenian Oculus subscription membership.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thanks, Ren.
And also, Becca. Becca has been a member for 7 months and said, just stopping by to show my support, but I'll have to watch the replay later. Ad Astra, Hail Nuterra, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you for stopping by, Becca.
Yeah.
And also for anybody, I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you stay after this public live stream, we're going to be having a members only live stream and we're going to have another surprise guest. So if you want to find out who that is, stay for that. And that'll be right after this public live stream.
Yeah, I'll set it up. I haven't set it up yet, but I'm going to post the link on the community board so everyone who's a member at any level has access to that. And I think we do have a new member because I see Spiral is in green. So if you just got a membership, thank you and welcome. So hi to everybody who's in here. There's a whole bunch of you. It's nice to see you. And
so thank you to Flower Dragon Laura for being a member for 15 months. We appreciate that. And hi,
thanks,
Elise.
Laura.
Thank you for modding.
Thanks for modding. And yeah. Oh, and is it Christian? Hi. I think you said you haven't been here in a while, and that's nice to see you. If you replace the using humans as physical energy to spiritual energy and how people give away their power, it's a very good comparison to life. I think that idea of people giving away their power, I think once you understand what reality is, you realize what your power is. You realize that instead of not having any, or thinking that you can actually get rid of it or not use it, becomes very, very important to understand that you are a creator. You are eternal. We are all eternal, and we are what is creating this reality. There's nothing external. There's no God, that the way people think of in God of any sort. That's what we are in terms of what created this reality. That's us.
Yeah.
And we're in charge. And we'll get more to that later.
Yeah. So just moving on a little bit, I thought it would be good to also talk about systems of distraction, dependency, and control, because you see that in the Matrix, but you also see it in real life, in the lives that we live every day. And so some of those are fear versus consumption, which I will talk about in just a second. But you also have capitalism, religion, the patriarchy, politics. All of those things are different forms of social control. And the first one that I mentioned, fear versus capitalism, you see a really good example of that in the Matrix movie. There's a character named Cypher, and he can't deal with the true nature of reality. He's exited the construct and he is in Zion. He's outside of the Matrix, and he can't cope with it. He's afraid, and he wants to be back in the illusion. He wants to consume, he wants to taste the flesh of steak again and taste the flavor, because all of that is a construct that the Matrix created for their minds. And so ultimately, spoiler alert, he betrays his friends and he is returned into the Matrix. And there's a scene where he says, why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill? And the blue pill is one of the choices that you are given by Morpheus, either the red pill to see the truth and understand the true nature of the construct, or the blue pill to be put back into the state of sleep, essentially, back into the construct. And so you also see those parallels with our reality that we live, the true reality of fear and consumption. If you keep everybody afraid, they will consume. And you have that with capitalism, with credit scores and romanticized wealth. Everybody wants to be rich, everybody wants to be powerful. And you have all of these systems of control that kind of keep people dependent on the system. And you also have that with religion. And Susan, I know you had a lot of parallels with religion that you kind of wanted to bring up.
Yeah, there's interesting parallels with religion, but and one of the things that I just thought of this, and it goes with that when you were talking about Cypher, is that religion offers people a sense of safety, protection, comfort. They choose it, and you need faith for that because they can give up a lot of control. They give up that is where you give up your power to
Hmm.
something else, and you're like, okay, just take care of me. Ultimately, I'm going to be taken care of. All I have to do are these simple things. And with Cypher, he basically chose that. He said the truth that this, according to the Matrix, the reality, he didn't like the real reality in the
Hmm.
Matrix. He was like, this, I don't want this anymore. I want the fake. I want the dream. I liked that better. And when people choose religion, this a false thing, over pursuing the truth, because people are afraid, a lot of people are afraid ultimately of stepping into the role of being responsible for the creation of reality. And I know that sounds weird to people who want to know the truth, but when you get there, it's pretty harsh. It's like, wow, wait a minute, nobody's fixing this. Nobody's out there, nobody's higher than
Yeah.
this, who ultimately will take care of all of us. No, that is our job. That is what we are evolving into. That is what the awakening process means. And there's responsibility there. And he didn't want that. He wanted to go back to having the comforts. He wanted the things that he liked. So I thought that's a really interesting theme. It's a really interesting point.
And also, speaking of religion, I'd love if you could kind of highlight some of the parallels with Christianity
Yeah,
and
well,
Gnostic.
the obviously, and this is pretty apparent. Trinity's name, Trinity,
Hmm.
Zion, which is where the supposed real life people who are not in the matrix, where they are living, and Neo is like, the one is
He's like a Christ-like
likened to,
figure.
yeah, to Christ. What I had forgotten about the movies, this has been such a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen the fourth one. Um, I had forgotten about the cyclical nature, that they had gone through already five before, and that was just part of the system. And that's a really good theme. And because we know the similarity, we know that is what we do. We, not for those reasons, but that existence is secular, and we just go through the same thing of coming together and being a unity, and then fracturing, experiencing ourself through diversity, and then coming back again and just doing that again.
Hmm.
So I thought that was
And so,
interesting.
I was going to say, all three of us on this live stream come from different backgrounds in terms of religion. Susan, you did not have a major religious upbringing,
Right.
and I had a Christian religious upbringing, and Jan, you had a Mormon upbringing. So, did you want to kind of parallel or talk about like the fear of hell and kind of how religion parallels to the Matrix and being complacent with the system?
Um, I think just the general idea of a simulation theory, or thinking about the matrix, I think there's two paths to approach it. And even though it's seemingly two different paths, I think it leads pretty much to the same place. On the one path, I think it's a very political, social idea of the matrix and the simulation and the people trying to pull the wool over your eyes and use you. And that's when you get into like media and politics and how the world is portrayed to you through the media, things like that. And then there's another path where I think it's the more metaphysical and like the religious approach. It's talking about literal reality. And so when I think about Mormonism coming into the context of like participating in sort of a matrix theory, I think it falls in line with the path of it being more metaphysical. So it's really targeting your purpose as you are existing in the world, and it paints it to you in such a way that it serves you the idea that you're here right now because of choices you made before you entered this life. Mormonism is very much a pre-life sort of thing. So I feel like it really tries to put a foot in the door as early as possible by implanting the idea that you already made a choice to come to the world and let's the matrix or whatever. And so
Mhm.
it's like you already made a promise, so you've got to come here and prove and live up to that promise, otherwise you're fucked.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said about, simulating reality. Also, what Susan found about Gnosticism, since we're talking about religion,
Yeah,
uh, the
huge.
Gnostics believe that the material world is an illusion.
Yeah,
And so that includes, it being an illusion and a trap that we can't break free of, that was created by a false god. And in the Matrix, that false god would essentially be the architect. And so, also in Gnosticism, I know there's the theme of archons, which is very parallel to the agents in the
yeah,
Matrix, kind of um, not necessarily rulers, but they're these agents that are preventing souls or preventing minds from escaping the illusion.
yeah.
And, there's a lot of cool parallels there. And
Also
also,
with Buddhism, the concept of samsara,
yeah,
which is the just the again the secular nature. Well, it's like wandering around, but and repeating the same thing. So
yeah.
that's also relevant. But I think the Gnosticism and the Christian aspects are the most obvious religious themes that run through it.
Yeah. Another really cool theme that you see in the Matrix saga is with the patriarchy. So we know that the patriarchy is really horrible in our lives, with the oppression of women and stuff. But the Matrix films really push the role of powerful women. You have the Oracle, which is a very mother-like, maternal, powerful mind in the Matrix that guides people and provides answers for certain things. But then you also have people like the ship captains. I can't remember what that ship captain's name is. Niobe, Captain Niobe. She is a very powerful leader. She helps with the resistance. And so, especially after breaking free of the construct. So, you're seeing a lot of themes of powerful women rising to power, kind of having important roles. And I think that kind of highlights what the Matrix is, a system of control, and how our real life there is a lot of systems of control that keep people oppressed in that fashion.
I
So
oh,
there's a lot of different systems of distraction and dependency and control that we could kind of talk about for a long time, but I think maybe it's a good time to move on.
I just
You
have a
want to?
couple things. I want to carry on with the idea of the powerful women. Don't let me forget that.
Oh, okay.
But I want to go back to something that Christian Koch said, which is going back to I think what I was talking about taking understanding that we are the creators and we need to take responsibility. And Christian said, yeah, it can be comforting to be told you are partly responsible for a world that's full of suffering, lol. And the answer to that is um, it's definitely a wake up when you wake up to the fact that wait a minute, we are this is us. We're
Mhm.
doing this. And then you really see the suffering as something that we not only can but need to change. It takes you out of that idea that somebody else is in charge and created this and we're just existing within it. We don't really have a lot of power. We just do the best we can given the system that we were born into. When
Yeah.
you wake up suddenly, and it's jolting, and it I know it was very disconcerting for me. It almost felt like I spent a long period of time adjusting to this. I don't know what other people's experiences were, and maybe that's a topic for another live stream. I'd love to hear about it because that experience of going through that process was odd. I mean, it was very surreal. I remember thinking life is surreal, and I almost didn't know what to do with it because you're starting to see the world in a very different way. It almost looked different. and it was the way you perceive it, and you're starting to understand that everything out there is not what I thought it was. And you do see the suffering, and you do want to make changes, and it automatically gets you on that path of, well, what can we do? I think I understand now a little better after being through this, why when someone has a religious awakening, it's false, but they believe it's true, why they kind of run out and stand on street corners and want to get other people to see it, because it sort of feels the same way. You don't know what to do with this knowledge, and you want everyone to know it. And that's why we do what we do, because I don't know another way of doing it. I don't know what else to do. This is how we have to do this. We have to spread this information, and that's why you guys are here, and that's what we want to do more of. And not just us, but all of you out there, to get the information out, because it's only through expanding consciousness and giving this information out that other people will start to see the world and reality for what it is, and then what we can do. Because it's easy to look around and see how fucked up things are. That's not a problem. But taking the really understanding that the responsibility is with us, because we create this, and there isn't something outside that's going to come in and swoop in and fix it. So, and understanding, and this is where these kinds of movies that make you think about this, the systems of control, the systems of power, you start to see them, and that's what you want to attack. That's what you want to dismantle.
I also really love that these movies and the themes of them, they highlight the philosophical and metaphorical implications of free will and choice and the nature of human consciousness. And so that's also a big reason why we wanted to talk about this today, because there's so many parallels with the Neogenian understanding. There's quite a few differences as well, but I thought it was a great topic for us to talk about today. And you wanted to go back and
powerful
talk about
women, yes, women. And then I think we should talk about simulation theory and consciousness, because that's another really important aspect to dismantle when you're critically thinking about some of these theories. So, but in terms of this is just a question I'm going to put out there for everybody. You can put your answers in the chat. I don't know how I feel about it, but I ran across somebody, Trinity is a very powerful, like with that, we see her first, right? And we're so impressed with her skill and her intelligence, and she is not shy about getting into a fight. She's strong. But there's people out there who say, yeah, but ultimately she is there as a support for Neo. Like ultimately she perpetuates the patriarchal, ideology. And I thought that was interesting, because she's strong, she's independent, she's not meek and submissive, but but I can see where people would say, yeah, I guess she is kind of, like, when you think about it, she is definitely there to support him in what he's doing. So tell me what you think about that. In the viewers, tell me what you think about Trinity in that position. Oh, you just spoiled it for me, Morg. In the fourth movie, they made Trinity and Neo a unity. Okay, darn it. I have not watched the rest of that. I was like halfway through it.
Well, I was also going to say, in the movies, they're very much a pair, and so they kind of guide and push each other. And so they're kind of on an equal plane. There's not a Neo's the superior man and Trinity's the supportive woman. They're very much a team, and they both emphasize and enhance each other's power.
I like that one. I'm going to go with you on that. Jan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, ultimately I'm like, this is just a movie. But I mean, if you're going to talk about the conceptualization of Trinity's role, the last thing I would think about is her being like sort of just a very like secondary back burner supportive character. I don't think I ever got that sense when experiencing the story of the Matrix.
Okay, anybody else? Um, yeah, I hear you on that, Joanna. I'm just wondering. Uh, I'm just wondering what you guys think about Trinity. Um, oh, also, yeah, Jeannie said there is a strong underlying message of transgender and transformation. Do you know? I have to watch that fourth movie now. Damn it. Yeah, and boo on you, Morg, for giving it away.
Well,
Morg's like, too bad.
the writers of the Matrix are trans.
Yeah, but
Like it's two trans
yeah,
sisters.
yeah, and that's cool. But do you know that I only just found this out just as an aside. They had a character, and I forget who who was supposed to be or considered being in a like one gender body in the real world, but having a different one in the Matrix, which I thought was cool. They didn't go through. That was also they Elise says that was also a theme. They didn't ultimately do it. That would have been very cool, I think, had they done
Yeah.
that. But they didn't. But okay, Spiral said Neo is the one, so yeah, she has to take a back seat sometimes. Neo and Trinity one. Jeannie said I'm gonna go with. I was surprised when I read that statement that some people saw her as, and probably only in the quote unquote real world part, as opposed to when they were, because she really kicks ass
Hmm.
in the Matrix world. She's definitely not running around being like in a support role. She's out there doing stuff. So I like that idea, and I also like the Unity thing that's now been spoiled for me by Morg, but I'm still going to watch it anyway. Okay, I think we should talk because what time is it? Oh my gosh. Okay, we have more themes to talk about, and
Yeah.
I'm with
Well,
you.
since we're also talking about the possibilities of the Matrix with all these powerful people that can do the jujitsu and hotwire cars and bend walls and fly, all of those things are really cool and they're also possible. So maybe not in the real world like we think about it in the world of physicality, but let's talk about lucid dreams. So lucid dreams are a
Dreams.
really good example of demonstrating the power of the mind. So in the Matrix movies, the reason that those people can do that is because their mind is plugged into the construct, and they can do these things because in the Matrix they are characters of mind, even though it doesn't seem that way. But if you unplug them from the Matrix, their physical body dies. The body can't live without the mind. So in a lucid dream, all of those things are possible because you're in the realm of the mind. So a lucid dream is almost like I think Jan said this, is almost like a small personal matrix. You can create things, change things, you can communicate with higher intelligences. And if you look at the Matrix, Neo contacts and is in communication with the Oracle, with the architect. And those are forms of higher intelligences in the Matrix. But in a lucid dream, you could think of those as archetypes of the unconscious or aspects of your higher self. You can commune with these different types of higher intelligences. You may not necessarily understand what they're saying, but you can interpret that and you can commune with them and interact with these different archetypal structures. And I think it's really cool because the more you experience in your lucid dreams and the more you understand the nature of consciousness and what you're doing in your lucid dreams, you're really understanding the power of the mind and the power of your mind while also understanding aspects of your unconscious. You know, there's all kinds of things like aspects of your shadow, aspects of your mirror self, you know, different aspects of your higher self. And that all can play into interstar actualization, which is another concept in the Neogenian system where we can realize our ultimate potential. And lucid dreams are a tool for us to do that.
It's of my personal opinion that exploring dreams isn't the only way to get in touch with your subconscious. but I feel like it's the most direct way to get in touch with your
Yeah.
subconscious. If you can learn to remember your dreams and analyze them, I think they're going to tell you a lot about yourself. And if you can get yourself into a place where you're lucid in your dreams, you can start to sort of control your environment and your surroundings. And I think the way that you approach applying your control also tells a lot about yourself and your subconscious.
And I think also once we get to that point where our lucid dreams and all of these different interactions that we have with our subconscious and our unconscious, that aids expanding our consciousness and understanding what we are and who we are, why we're here. And that plays into our next point, which is kind of the theme of waking up. So, as you kind of understand the true nature of reality, the true nature of consciousness, and what you are, you kind of, as Susan said, you want to share that knowledge with other people. And so the people who exit the matrix, they escape from that construct. They want to free other minds from the construct. And
Yeah.
so if you think about it in terms of the Neogenian perspective, we're not freeing them from construct in terms of exiting and being in Zion and stuff like that in this other external world. But what we're doing is we are kind of breaking the shackles of the illusion and helping people realize what the true nature of reality
Yeah.
is, the mathematical nature of reality. And so you also see that theme in Plato's cave. I know we mentioned that earlier. So suppose you have somebody in a cave staring at the wall, looking at these shadows that are cast by a torch or a light behind them, and they think that those shadows are real. And it's not until they exit the cave and see the true light and see the true world that they understand that everything that they've experienced in that cave has been a representation or an illusion. And so I think that's a really cool metaphor. And it can help us understand what we are and what we're doing here so that we can create a new world for ourselves.
I think an interesting conversation would be maybe at a later stream to be about what do you do precisely in that moment once you metaphorically leave the cave or once you come into a new light of realization about the world. Like what do you do with that information and how do you live your life? Because it's not realistically as if you literally escape and you're like on a different plane or in a different world or something. It's more like of a mental approach and a perspective of life. You've entered a new perspective. So it's like, what do you do with that? Because you still it like especially with neogenianism, it's like once you reach that point, it's not like, oh, I have to leave now. Oh, I realize everything's like messed up. All right, I'm just gonna leave. It's more of an opportunity, I feel, where it's like, okay, I understand how things are. Now I have to go back into the matrix and start doing some work to help, others or just be a part of the process still of things and people that are left in the illusion to help
Yeah.
them get out.
And
I think that's a
I
really
kind of,
important point.
yeah, I kind of talked about for me, the how surreal that was, that moment, or that time period, because it wasn't a moment. It was actually it happened over, I don't know, a few months or something. Um, and I think that is a good idea for a future live stream. We can certainly do that. I think one of the things to point out in this particular theme is that the purpose is not to sort of escape from this world. It's not
Yeah.
to say, well, this is like an illusion, or there's suffering, or it's
Peace, see
got
you later.
problems.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah. That's not the purpose. I know that there are other ideologies that's what they want to teach. Like this sucks. Let's not be here. That's not what we're about at all. We're the opposite, which is that once you know this information, and again, it's disconcerting, coming to this realization, and you have to kind of take your time getting through it, but it naturally follows then, normally, that you will say, you'll come to the conclusion that there's nothing else you can do, and this happens with me all the time. when I do feel that despair, again, we can talk about this at another time. When you feel the despair, when you feel that you can't, there's nothing you can do, you feel hopeless. I always just end back at the place I started, which is, well, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing because that's all I can do. You can't escape existence. I know there's a lot of people who come into streams and they're just desperate to find a way out. They don't want to do this again. Well, the reason you don't like it is because you don't like the now. You don't like the way it is. But that doesn't mean you will always be like this. We can create a reality that
I
we
mean,
love living in.
it's like you either at that moment shut down completely and disassociate and isolate yourself from everything, or
Mhm.
you roll up your sleeves, you dive in, and you start embracing the disparity and the process that it takes to grab people by the shoulders and and shake them and wake them up too.
Yeah, I think having a community of like-minded people is very helpful when you finally, having personally gone through different systems, making my way toward this, finally finding this that has the rational foundation. And I hope we have time. Yeah, we do. Because I do want to talk about um, how to discern what makes the Neogenian rational as opposed to things like the matrix and things like the simulation theory. And we talked about this, the three of us, a little bit before we went live. And I think it's an important point. But the point is that we do want to make this world a place where, and we can, where we want to be, where we want to live. And the more people you find, the more people who say, I get it, I understand what you're talking about, and I want to do that too, the easier it gets. And you don't have as much despair that you're alone in this. But I think it can be very lonely before you meet others. It would be like this solitary person wandering around outside of Plato's cave, understanding reality and yet interacting with everybody else who's still stuck. It's a very
Yeah.
strange feeling.
Well, also, when you come out of the darkness of the cave, the true light that you first see for the first time can probably be blinding and disorienting. So much like what Jan said, when you come forth with this new information, this new understanding of reality, you have to have a way to apply that. And so, Susan, I know you and I have talked about maybe doing some content in the future about how to apply Neogenian concepts and kind of carry that with you in life, and apply that to your daily life. So if you guys would like to see that, definitely let us know. We're working on some stuff. I know it's been kind of a slow roll and we've been focusing on live streams, but there is some cool stuff coming. So definitely let us know in the comments if you would like to see more explanations and expansions on Neogenian concepts.
Yeah, just living it. That's always something that I thought this channel should really focus on, is how to live with this information, how to live being Neogenian, you know, um, because we do give out content in terms of explaining things, and there's lots of topics that we love talking about, but I think that this could be a very good opportunity to also just having a living as a Neogenian in the world, and what are we doing, and how do you make your way through life? What do we do? I just wanted to touch on two things. First up, something we didn't mention, with difficulties with the matrix and simulation theory, but really there's a topic, which is, I know there's a lot of people out there who are very interested in these theories, and they kind of grab them saying, wow, that's cool sounding, we're living in a matrix, but they don't really understand the implications of the rationale behind it. They don't ask questions that are answered using reason, logically. They just like the idea. They think the idea of it is cool, and maybe they just leave it there. Like, oh, we're living in a matrix, or we're living in a simulation. So if you're presented with these three, like I'm going to say three things, like the matrix and simulation theory, and then the Neogenian, they might all seem And you could even add on another one, which would be like the Christian view of reality. So you've got these different ideas, and how do you analyze them? Like well, the Christian one just seems really without any logical basis, and it's designed that way. It's designed
It's
for,
very emotion based.
yeah, it's designed for, well, you just take it on faith, and whatever rationale they give you, like there must be a God, because somebody had to have thought this through and created something that's got to be an intelligent design. That kind
Well,
of argument.
that's what I was trying to touch base on earlier is like, are you approaching the concept of the matrix in a metaphysical sense, as in like your actual existence and purpose in life, or are you approaching it in like a political and social sense, in what like the government or the media is doing to you? I think those are two different things that kind of end up in the same place and obviously in the same concept, but sometimes I don't think people really take the time to differentiate the two.
I'm thinking about it in terms of the explanation of reality type thing. I mean, yes, I think people do use it as a construct of, well, we're being controlled, that kind of thing, and that is definitely a theme. And we talked about that, and that's a huge theme. And I think people relate to that because they're very suspicious of why the world is operating the way it is. Uh, but I think in terms of looking at each of those systems and trying to discern, well, which one has like a rational basis, or any of them, do any of them? And I think what happens that people don't know what to ask. It's like the level of critical thinking ability is what's lacking. And these people, it's not that they don't want to know, it's just that have they haven't honed their faculties of critical thinking. And I think what's really important is to come in contact with someone who you can ask some questions, or someone points something out to you, some flaws in some of the systems, and you sort of learn, oh, this is a good question and it doesn't have an answer. And the next time you encounter something, you've got now that little chunk of information in your repertoire that you can apply toward other situations. I think that is how your own critical thinking skills are going to grow. So one of the things with simulation theory, and it's the same issue with the matrix, is, like we said earlier, they don't have an explanation for how their base reality works. They just push the the issue elsewhere, and that's the entertaining part. It's the fact that a simulation exists, or the matrix exists, but then you just end up back at the base, whatever their reality is, and there's no explanation for that. But another thing that I know got to me was with simulation theory, which I'm like you, Philip, I don't know that much about it, but I know that the constructs that we would then be, supposedly, are expected to be sentient or conscious. I'm not sure which one, if they differentiate. But my question right away is, well, where did that come from? Where did that subjectivity come from? That's an important question. And the answers that I could find were, well, it's pretty much emergent theory. It's just, well, if you have a detailed, significantly detailed system, it would just consciousness or sentience would emerge from that.
Like out of the rich phenomena.
Yeah, and that's not an explanation. That's just a belief in emergent theory that if you have something that is sufficiently complex, it would naturally happen. And the assumption, I think, is that, well, it would be so technologically advanced that at some point, yes, you would be able to have a artificial construct that would produce consciousness. But again, you could have something that is extremely complex but it's never going to produce a consciousness. Now, in our system, because we are, eternal minds, not no beginning, no end, no creation, no starting point. The only way that one of these technologically advanced constructs could have a subjectivity would be if a zeta, a mind, were integrated with it. It's not going to spring automatically somehow from the actual construct itself, in other words. So that kind of question is what I was talking about in the little topic before this, which is honing and developing your critical thinking skills on when you're examining these kinds of theories that are presented. It's asking those kind of questions. Well, how do you explain this aspect or that aspect of it? And if you find that they say, well, we don't really know, which is what it comes down to, or an acceptance of something that is, that a lot of people find likely to be true, like emergent theory, that's not good enough.
They ultimately don't know.
They ultimately don't know.
Maybe it would be good for us to touch on how to apply that critical thinking and that critical reasoning sometime soon.
Yeah.
And just before we go, thank you, Fashida, for the super chat. And also earlier, Joanna gave a members supporting chat, milestone chat. I can't remember how many months it was. It's already gone from the chat, but thank you for being a long-time supporter. Also, everybody, if you stick with us right after this, we're almost out of time. We're going to have a members only live stream with a surprise guest. So if you want to join us, you can sign up for that. Or if you're already a member, you can join us in maybe 15, 20 minutes and you can find out who that is. Thank you, Imaginista,
for
gifting
again.
a membership.
Jennifer,
and
Jennifer
yeah,
got
definitely let us know, you guys. You can always let us know in the comments what you'd like to see, what you'd like us to do a stream on. And thank you to everybody who gifted memberships and super chatted. And thank you just for coming, because we appreciate seeing you here and seeing your comments in the chat. Susan said a little bit earlier, it's really helpful to have a community of like-minded people in order to understand and share this information. So it's really important that you guys are here, and we're glad that you guys are willing to spend your Saturday with us. So is there anything else you thought we should add, Susan? Thank you. Thank you to our moderators for joining. And also, I think after our members only stream, I think another Neogenian creator, Mark Vanderpool, is premiering some content on the Neogenian Whisper channel, and you can check that out.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody who is saying that you liked the stream. We thought that this was a really good topic. I like the idea of talking more about honing critical thinking skills, and I think possibly doing that in the future, bringing up certain theories and discussing them with what kinds of questions arise would be really good practice. I know that's always, thank you, Morg. I know that's always really good for me. I think we are out of time. You guys, I have to still set up the other stream. Please, if you are a member and you're coming to that, I'm going to have the link to it on the community board on the YouTube channel.
Anybody who is not a member or has not been in a members only stream, if you would like to be a secret guest at some time, feel free to message us or message our Facebook page, which, by the way, you can check out the Neogenian Oculus on Facebook. And just shoot us a message and we can see if we can get that process rolling. There is a little bit of a wait list and there's a couple requirements that we can talk to you guys about. But the people are really excited to see our secret guests on camera.
Yeah, we do a Zoom meeting. We already did it with another person who contacted us through the Facebook page. Please do go and like and follow the Facebook page. That's where I post the Neogenian Oculus Facebook page. That's where I post the live streams. When we do them, it's always on a Saturday and it's always at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We would love to do it once a week, but we're very busy. So we do it at least once a month with a member stream right after. Hi, Pooks. So if you want to come, one more time, if you want to come, it's a membership at any level. We'll get you in. And I think the membership is at the lowest level is at $2 a month. So it's like $24 a year, gets you into all of those. We really appreciate it. You do not have to do it, but we really appreciate it. The regular live streams are always here for you guys, for everyone. And I'm going to post that in a second. We're probably just going to, we need to get our guest in to Zoom, and we will be right with you as soon as I set up that stream. So good night, everybody, and we'll see the ones who are coming in like a few minutes. Bye-bye.
Good
Right.
night.
Bye.
For joining.
Bye.